Welcome to the Workamper Show, brought to you by Workamper.com. This podcast helps you discover how to finance your RV travel dreams. Each one of our episodes will introduce you to people who are already living the RV lifestyle or to work camping opportunities all around the U.S. You'll also learn how to hit the road the right way and make the most of every opportunity. Now let's turn over today's show to your host, Greg Gerber.
If you've ever dreamed of spending a summer surrounded by mountain vistas, pristine lakes, scenic trails, and friendly people, then volunteering with Idaho's state parks may be the perfect opportunity for you. You'll find out why today. Today's episode is sponsored by Workamper News. Much more than just a job listing website, when you put the tools of this professional service into action, you'll find out just how easy it can be to turn your work camping dreams into reality. A Workamper membership opens the door to a one-stop shop for all things work camping. Being the original resource for work camping, you'll find the largest number of job listings, be able to connect with a community of work campers, and view resources compiled by experts who've been enjoying the RV lifestyle for many years. If you're serious about leading a successful and enjoyable work camping lifestyle, then membership is for you. Join today at www.workamper.com. Embark on new adventures today with the support of Workamper News behind you. In this episode, we'll explore the wide range of volunteer roles available throughout Idaho's 30-plus state parks and recreation areas. Those jobs include traditional campground hosts and visitor center support staff, as well as trail maintenance, educational programming, and even building bridges on backcountry trails. There are multiple opportunities for people with many different skills and interests. Our guests today include Trish Hendrickson, the statewide volunteer coordinator for Idaho State Parks and Recreation, along with longtime volunteers Julie Rensink and Ken Mason. Together, they describe the kinds of responsibilities volunteers take on, what it's like to live and work in the parks, and why so many people return season after season. You'll hear stories about trail building with chainsaws, planning interpretive programs, supporting new campers, and even fishing at sunrise on a kayak. Whether you're looking for an active role in maintenance or a welcoming position greeting guests, Idaho State Parks and Recreation likely has a place for you. To tell us more, please welcome Trish Hendrickson and Workampers Julie Rensink and Ken Mason. Thanks for joining me today, Trish. I really appreciate the time. I know that you work for Idaho State Parks and you have brought several of your volunteers with you today to talk about work camping at the state parks. Tell us a little bit about your state park system.
To start out, we are here in Idaho. We have over 30 state parks, and some of our state parks have different site units, and that's why I say over 30. And at most of our units, we do bring on volunteers. We bring on somewhere between 380 and 400 volunteers a season. And the season is that May through October is our typical operation season. And so most of our volunteers come on seasonally. We do enjoy the privilege of getting to keep most of our volunteers for a minimum of 2 to 3 months. Some stay the whole season. And one or two parks is even knocking into that year-round experience. Henry's Lake is looking at increasing their winter programs, and so they're looking for some camp hosts that may come on even through the winter. Now, Henry's Lake's only about 12 miles outside of West Yellowstone, so you can imagine that experience isn't for the faint of heart. But so we do offer a wide variety of volunteer opportunities at our parks, anything from camp hosting and what you can imagine a typical camp host looks like, to working on our trails, maintenance, running equipment and chainsaws. Hopefully Ken gets to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But we also have our interpretive programming where you could receive a plug-and-play kit on some educational materials in each of our parks. And each park is so unique. We have BAT programs to history programs to geology programs, all of these kind of things all over our state. And so it's really awesome to have volunteers come on and provide us those variety of services.
That's really neat. Are all of your parks open year-round or just some of them?
They're all open year-round to some extent, but the majority of our parks do winterize their campgrounds. And so that's why I'm saying Hell's Gate does keep volunteers on year-round, so that's why they popped in my head. But Henry's is looking at keeping their campground open year round. And so that'll be a new pioneer for us. And we'll see what kind of damages they run into for our good Idaho winters.
Okay, so all of these are volunteer positions. They're not paid in any way, right?
Yes, yes. The volunteers, like I said, are totally the backbone of our agency. We will have, of course, our rangers and our full-time staff, and we do bring on some seasonal staff as well, but our volunteers really, really keep the wheels on.
How many hours a week do they typically work?
That varies on the park location and the needs at each park. In policy, in order to receive your site, the minimum required hours is 20. However, each park, like I said, is unique in their needs. And so they may request 30 or so hours from their volunteers. And some just can't get their volunteers to take some time off. And so they volunteer a lot more. And that's usually at their discretion.
Okay, so when they're going through the interview process, the volunteers can indicate how many hours they're willing to work, and that may limit the
Absolutely.
kind of parks that they would be able to go into.
Yeah. Those are all great questions to bring up in the interview, what your willingness is, what kind of restrictions you have. If you have a vacation that you want to go pick up the grandkids and take them on a little trip for 2 weeks or something like that, those are all common things that we work into our volunteer programming.
Super. Julie, how long have you worked for the parks?
I've worked for the parks this is my 4th year as a volunteer. I've been coming up here at Ponderosa State Park for 60 years. So this is like my backyard. I love it up here. And when I knew I was going to retire from the travel industry, I wanted to become a volunteer up here and to become a camp host. It just was my retirement job. And anyway, and here it is. And I'm one of those with Ken. We love it so much. And like I said, I feel like this is my backyard. I love whenever we go hiking, I take my trash can with me. We pick up trash and just different things like that. The hours trying to stay at 20 hours a week, it's hard for me. And it's hard for me to take off because I just love it so much. I love talking to the people and things like that.
What are some of the things that a camp host does on a typical day?
Well, I know it differs from between park to park because we not only help in Ponderosa, but also we started to help at Eagle Island. Eagle Island is starting a brand new campground that's going to open up. It's going to be a soft opening, I believe, in Labor Day. But there was mainly just maintenance, trail pickup, and stuff like that. But up here in Ponderosa, the main thing is making sure the campground is nice. And we have gotten so many 5-star reviews of our campsites. We not only pick up trash, we disinfect the tables, we brush around the borders to make sure that the tent pads and borders are evident, and we feng shui raking of the campsites. It's really funny because I say feng shui because a lot of campers say, I can't believe you even raked it. And yeah, that's what we do. And I know some campsites, some other state parks do that. And then we're always open for questions or whatnot, uh, which I love. So it's not just, okay, you work from 9 to 2. If I'm here and if a camper walks in the site wanting to know where to get firewood or whatnot, I love talking to them. I invite them over for a little happy hour or a snack if they want. So
I've heard that camp hosts like sitting out on the table in front of their rigs and just waving to people as they go by and
yes,
engaging them in conversations. What are you from? Where are you from? What do you like to do? And just answering their typical questions and encouraging them to have a good experience.
oh, exactly. And in fact, we've gotten a couple of our camp hosts from us doing that. We took down their names and number and gave it to my supervisor. And it's just a great way to meet people and to just enjoy the beautiful valley and the surrounding areas too. So
Did you need any special training for that job?
you have to, for me, I like people. And so I'm an extrovert. I'm a retired flight attendant. And so for me to do this, it was just like a shoe-in. And so, no, not really. You want to be able to get up and be able to work and to walk, get your steps in and to talk to people.
Very good. So, Ken, what do you do for the Idaho State Parks?
A little bit of everything. And basically, we're helping the public recreate in this glorious state we call Idaho. And it's one of those kind of persuasions that you get started in on it. And then the next thing you know, 4 or 5 years went by.
So you've been working for the parks for 5 years?
This is my 6th season here at Landy the Yankee Fork State Park. We're in East Central Idaho, but I have worked in Arizona and I have worked in Utah. I started out working in Utah.
Okay. So what have you always been at the same state park in Idaho?
Pretty much. One thing brought me here, and that was the dirt bike. And I ride hard enduro, and Central Idaho is amazing.
What kinds of things do you do as a work camper?
Traditionally, there's about 3 areas. You're looking at your traditional camp host. And then there's also visitor center duties, interpretive center duties, and then overall maintenance kind of duties. And you're going to find those in just about any of our Idaho state parks. And those are generically areas of responsibility. And depending on your skill set and motivation, you're going to do your 20 hours. You're going to do more. Me personally, if it needs to be done, I do it.
When it comes to maintenance, are you talking like you're fixing electrical boxes or that you're fixing picnic tables, that kind of thing?
The stock answer is picnic.
Okay.
Because being a state agency, we have to follow code. And so unless you're a licensed electrician, no, you're not going to be messing with that. But running circular saw stuff, tools like that, building kiosks, fixing structures, putting on a new roof. Again, it depends on your skill set and what you're capable of doing. And quite frankly, a lot of our volunteers are closer to 70 than 60. And I've got a lot of skills to offer. And so and like a lot of my rangers are younger, they don't have skill set yet. And we also act as mentors. And I'm training my rangers, training the younger folks how to do this, how to do that. The difference between level and plumb and all kinds of building trade stuff.
Trish suggested that you have a fascination with saws. Why would she suggest that?
Not really saws, it's dirt bikes. And then to ride dirt bikes in Idaho, you got to have a saw in front because the trees are always falling down.
Okay.
So I want to hop in on Ken because he has a whole different segment of volunteering that isn't typical to the work campers. So Ken also volunteers with our East Region Trail Crew. And so I was hoping, Ken, that you might chat a little bit about that and just highlight the diversity of the volunteer opportunities and go through some of the projects that you guys have worked on over there too, just in case any of our listeners are out there and they're interested in coming to Idaho, but maybe not necessarily to be permanently in a state park and doing those state park camp host duties. So if you can elaborate on that a little bit, that'd be awesome.
The title is Idaho Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
It's 2 separate divisions, and I dabble in both. I work with Brian DeLon. She's the Eastern Region Trail Coordinator. We ride dirt bikes. We also have OHVs, which are the Razors and the 4-wheelers. And Idaho has the most single track and OHV trails of any state in the lower 48. And
over 2,000 miles.
Yes. But it's not all state. It's mostly United States Forestry and BLM. And we're an interagency organization. So recreation coordinates with the other agencies, and we maintain fair majority of the forestry and BLM trails. And so when we're talking trails, we're talking cutting trees early in the season, and they're falling down all the time. So if you're going to ride Idaho, somebody on your crew needs to be carrying a chainsaw. Also, erosion control, for instance, and bridges. All right. So Greg, in your article, you had that photo was of the main bridge that we put up last year in Harriman State Park. And those are kit bridges, and they're engineered. So you're talking a glue lamb that might be that particular one was the largest one we put together since. That's probably 4 inches wide, 18 to 20 inches tall, and it's got a radius built into it to carry the weight. That one was the largest because it was designed because there's a concession there at Harriman with equine. So it was big enough so equine could going in opposite directions and carry the weight. But Brian and I and guys from Idaho Single Track Alliance, we've been building these bridges for a couple years now, and we were invited to that particular project because of our kind of subject matter expert. But anyway, so back to the trails. And just like yesterday, I did a 10-hour day with Brian, and we did a reroute on some single track up to the Chalice Lakes. It's actually part of the Yankee Fork Trail. And we had to reroute due to, it's a single track trail. What happens a lot of times is four-wheelers and other larger vehicles will try to push into there and to get access. And so we do a lot of also restricting work. We also put in physical structures called restrictors. IDPR works really hard at making our trails safe and accessible. And then safe meaning these trails are marked with carcinites. We work really hard at making sure everything's mapped. Idaho has one of the best trail websites. It's not a nav app, but it's a good planning app. And it's one of the best ones in the country. And just like yesterday, when Brian and I got done doing this reroute, I took my phone out, got into Gaia, tracked where we did the reroute, and Brian today sent that to Alex, the guy that does the mapping, and that's probably being put in right now in the website, updating our website right now, and it's been less than 24 hours. That's how serious we are about the trails here in Idaho.
That's neat. But not only do you have the regular off-road vehicle trails, but I'm sure you have a whole bunch of hiking trails as well. Are you involved in fixing those? And
then let's go back again on the volunteering part. So these projects that we do, they're usually, if we're, say, for instance, we're constructing a bridge, the people involved are hikers, mountain bikers, equestrian, side-by-side riders, single track riders. And then we get groups like Tread Lightly to come in and support us. Brian DeLon will work on getting grants. We used last year when we put in a bridge over on the Lemhi's. It was so far back in that we had to use helicopters that were being contracted out with forestry at the time because of fires. We had helicopters. We literally loaded in the pieces of the bridge and into the site. And that's just something that, as I'm retired military, when I did a lot of sling loading in the cavalry. And Brian as well, when he was working with the gas industry, the gas exploration would sling load. So for us, that's just something that we do. And as a volunteer, it's that we had forestry people watching us doing what we were doing because they wanted to learn how to do it. And it was funny because when the pilot, I ran into him that flew this mission, I ran into him in town later in the week. And I overheard him talking about how this project and how these rigs were labeled and everything. And I said, yeah, everything was with a 3x5 card and stuck in the upper right corner. And did you notice the initials certifying the rig? Because we weighed everything. And he goes, yeah. And I said, yeah, those are mine. He goes, you're definitely for our military. He says, because I remember seeing that kind of stuff in the military. And those are again, the skills and the motivation that volunteering, when you come to something like this, and it can be in any state, and it's just what's your passion in life. How hard do you want to push it? How hard do you want to enjoy it? And we need camp hosts as well that want to just sell firewood, greet people as they're coming in, answer questions, the same 20 questions 100 times a day. And you have to be smiling about it because they don't know what they don't know. And if you can't deal with that, then maybe you should be cutting grass. And we have a spot for too.
Good point. Yeah, I like the fact that you're putting those restrictors on the trails because kids and animals may not react well to having vehicles on the same trails. So anything you can do to keep everybody separated so they can enjoy their experiences sounds like a good plan and good course of action. What kinds of perks do you guys get as volunteers?
I call my family up here. They truly are my summer family. That's a big perk for me. We're very close. We get together all the time and play games and eat together. But the main perk is you do get, we are volunteer, but in my mind, it's not a volunteer. We love what we do, but we get our site for free. And so we don't need to worry about paying rent of any kind or anything like that. Those two are the main ones. And I want to go back on what Ken was saying, which was really important, is that in any state park, you do have your interpreter center. And when he was talking about the groups of people that came around to him during that time, and we put in like a pollinator garden. We had area people coming up that had that expertise. I helped in it. Every year I go by, oh, those are the plants that I plant, and you can see how they grow. Things like that. In every state park, and it's diversified. It's a lot of things to volunteer for. So to get your campsite, we became camp hosts. And yeah, it's the same questions over and over again, which is just fine. My husband and I are looking at starting something new for next year, is like a little classes for brand new campers. We're seeing a lot of new campers coming up. And so like, how do you start a fire? Things like that, just maintaining things. We're interviewing and we're reviewing different types of tents. So this is things, being a volunteer, there's so many things that you can do to make camping and the outdoor experience more helpful. We don't enforce, but we educate. And those are the two things as a volunteer that we need to remember. I was a ranger a couple years last year and the year before. So it was hard for me because I see a lot of violations. And as a host, you just can want to educate you. There's this and this. And especially now with these e-bikes. And that's been a huge problem for us up here. If there's kids involved, go back to the campsite and educate the parents. And it's about all we can do. That to me is probably my most frustrating part. But other than that, it's just, I can't believe every day I wake up in this beautiful scenery. And I'm very thankful for having my site that I do, and I'm able to help where I can.
I was going to ask about enforcement if the volunteers are involved in that. But typically, you just call the rangers if there's a problem. If somebody's being loud,
yeah,
they're doing dangerous things, like they're building a fire outside the pit, etc., or leaving their fire unattended and going away and things like that. Okay.
It's campground hosts, and I'm sure it's statewide. Trish could talk on it. But as a campground host, as a volunteer, I should say, any volunteer, because of liability issues, we are not to walk into a campsite that is being occupied. And now with that, if there is, we've had several instances that people have just taken off, like gone boating or a hike, and here's their fire. I always text the rangers who listen, site 28 has a roaring fire. I am going to proceed to go in and put the fire out. Things great. I'll send the summer crew out to help. Things like that. But those are the only times that we will go into a campsite that is occupied if I see something like that.
Okay. Do you folks get a state park pass or anything like that when you become a volunteer? Okay.
Yep, we do that too, yes.
And time off to enjoy the parks, it looks like.
We do. You know what Trish was talking about. Can you take off time to go get your grandkids or whatnot? We as a team here at Ponderosa State Park, we work together with the other volunteers and camp hosts and say, hey, listen, we're going to be off. So I'll work 7 days so that another camp host could get off, and they did vice versa. But still the same thing. We really want them to enjoy it. And I've got a great testimony on that one. We have brand new camp hosts this year, and they have been full-time RVing for 5 years. And they are going to buy a home in Texas. And they saw it come up. They'd never camp host before, and they really never explored Idaho before. They said, well, let's just put our application in. So they did, and they got chosen. On something like that, they said they're just going to do it their last year. They never camp host. They've traveled all over the country. And they just told us that we have made it so enjoyable and it's so much fun, and encouraging them to get out and explore Idaho and giving them certain spots to go to. They're very seriously, I bet they're going to be returning next year.
Oh, that's neat.
We make it fun for them, and so they can get out. It's not like you're stuck in the campground, and you can go out and do other things. And Idaho has their state parks, and the new one there at Eagle Island, right down in Eagle, which is in Boise. I'm from that area. There's lots of things to do in that area. where all the state parks are situated, there's lots of things to do. Ken was saying the off-roading, there's the hiking, there up here there's boating, there is kayaking. There's so many things for our volunteers in the state of Idaho to do.
I would imagine that fishing is popular up there as well.
Oh my goodness, I've got it. Yes, fishing over here. We've got lake and right now they're starting to form their hooks. So now they're going to start swimming up the meanders, which is awesome. But my daughter, in fact, this year my daughter is a campground host as well. And park manager, I said, okay, how am I going to catch these kokanee? He goes, you got to get up early in the morning and or night because they don't like light. And so I talked to Renee and I go, okay, let's get up at 4:30 a.m. with our kayak. Woke my husband up. He took the kayaks up to where it's easier to get into the lake. And we're out in the lake with our light fishing kokanee. I didn't catch a kokanee, but I caught my first pike in 60 years out of this payout lake. I can believe I caught a pike. Fun things like that we're able to do. Our toes were frozen because it was very cold, but we had a great time.
That's neat. Trish, if somebody had particular expertise in an area and wanted to volunteer for you, would they be able to approach you about the skills that they wanted to provide, and you might let them know what campgrounds or recreational areas could best use those skills?
Absolutely. So I have the from 10,000 feet view of what needs are in each park and what kind of programming they offer. And so I would encourage anybody that wants to have a conversation to just find my contact information on our website, which is pretty easy. You just navigate to the volunteering page and it says contact the volunteer coordinator. And you can click right on that and shoot me an email, or it's got my phone number on there. You can give me a call. Even on the application, if you don't want to chat with me, which is fine, you can indicate some of your skill sets that could be applied in the park. And I read those and help navigate those out where they best fit. And so if you come in like you have a ton of irrigation experience, oh my gosh, I can't tell you, 3/4 of the parks, maybe more, would eat that up, because I can tell you with spit wheels in and out and all that kind of stuff, irrigation's always an issue. But yeah, so if you have any, like Ken's got different things he's passionate about that we're able to incorporate into his volunteer service, that's the goal. It's our mission is to try to fit your skills best into our system.
I got a dovetail on that. You list you as an individual as you're volunteering what you like to do. And then you go to the state where you think you want to go, particularly Idaho. And then you find a park is in an area that has the capacity for the things that you like to do, whether it's hiking or Julie, whether it's fishing or it's lake or it's campgrounds. And then you look at different parks that we have in the state and you go, wow, I like to do this, and bang, maybe I'll volunteer at that one. Or I want to be in a lake, I want to be in a nice campground, but I want some amenities and I want to be near a city. Here in Chalice, if you want to go to a Walmart, it's in Idaho Falls, it's 2.5 hours away. So Idaho, and that's that part of the draw is it is remote. There's no fast food here where I'm at. It's a very small town, but it has its benefits and it's gorgeous here. So figure out what you want to do and then find a park that has that stuff that you want to do. And then go ahead and contact Trish and say, hey, is there a spot in this park for me to do hosting? And the next thing, you'll be working your 20 hours and then you have the rest of the time to go and follow your passions and then also help out in the park. And it's a win-win for everybody involved in this.
It sounds like it. Now, Julie, you said that you have 380 to 400 volunteers per year for 30 different state parks. Does that mean that you have enough campsites to host all those volunteers, or do only the park hosts get the free site?
I think that's Trish's question. I'm sorry.
No worries. We have huge different variety of capacity that we bring in our volunteers. So a big bulk of those hosts that we give sites to I would direct you to Farragut State. They actually have a whole campground that is designated as their volunteers campground. And Farragut is a huge park. It's probably the largest in our system, I believe. And they staff 90% of the operations in that park with their volunteers. And so they usually bring on 50 or 60 of them themselves. And some of those are couples even, and both sides of the couples do have different duties that they have incorporated in as well. And so you can see how it just kind of grows into a big three-headed monster really fast. And another segment of that's really cool is over at Harriman State Park, near where Ken's at. They have a volunteer ski patrol in the winter. They have a huge winter program of cross-country skiing and snowshoeing over there. And so they staff that program with volunteer ski patrol. And so that's some of those numbers as well. So you can see how it quickly can grow really fast. But yeah, we have over 30 parks, and each one brings on anywhere from a park that's a little bit more quaint, we'll say, might have 5 or 6 volunteers that help there each summer, all the way up to, like I said, Farragut usually averages about 60 or 70.
Is there room for families at your parks? If somebody wanted to show up with kids and volunteer as well.
Yes. So we understand that is a growing segment of the volunteer picture. And so we have really been working hard to figure out how to incorporate families into our volunteers. So we have put some stipulations in place, such as if you have kids under 14 years old, they do need to be supervised by a non-working parent during your volunteer hours. And so we are really working hard to figure out how to best incorporate in that segment in. We've got, like I said, a few restrictions on it just to make sure that the families are safe and in compliance with the needs of the park and that liability is all shored up.
Okay.
But there is a avenue for that to happen, and it is a growing segment. And so we're happy to take them on and work through that.
I'd like to address that because that is what's happened to us this year. In the last 4 years, my kids have always come up and they volunteer. They see what we do. We're all from the valley, Boise Valley, 2.5 hours away. They had met. We became friends with the rangers and whatnot. This year, they asked, hey, Renee and Tom, do you want to come up and just be like backup hosts and whatnot? Anyway, to come to find out, they actually gave them a loop. And so they moved their trailer up, and my daughter and my teenagers, grandkids, and preteen came up. My son-in-law is a manager at the Boise airport, so he comes up on his days off, and he went through all the volunteer and all that. So it is really, I was like Trish, I say, how is this going to work? How is this going to do it? And it's great because Renee gets on, she does her loop, and my granddaughter is old enough to stay there by herself. We're in the loop. But what was really cool about it, my grandson, we have in each park, they have summer programs. And yeah, they could do volunteers, but because of the lack of space, RV space that they hold for the hosts, they don't have a lot of volunteer spots for them to put them in. And so they become paid employees. We have summer housing, and it's usually young kids, college age kids that are going to that one degree in forestry of some sort, park management or whatever it is. Anyway, so my 14-year-old, he loves it. He's been up here and he was offered a summer job. This is his first job for 3 days a week. That's all he wants to do. And so it's really opened his eyes to say, I want to shoot to be a ranger here. We're going, this is the kind of, and they're wonderful to him. They're just so great. And so what a great opportunity for him to have his first job ever, to be in the outdoors. What does he do? He cleans lots of bathrooms. What he does. But you know what? He does it with a smile on his face, and he loves it. So I think, and it's going to be a challenge for Trish, as she said, as it evolves, that a lot of families are full-time RVers and are looking for volunteer positions. It would be a little tougher to me with little kids for both husband and wife to be out doing it because, yeah, you do need to have an adult at the campsite supervising your kid, and the other one could go out. And another thing with that, this year, it's different for us. I'm the camp host. My husband is not the camp host. And so he actually was hired on as one of the summer crew for the office. And yeah, he's thriving. He's admin. That's where he goes. He absolutely loves it. And so I'm the camp host, and which is fine. And I'm able to do they're concerned that I'm overworking myself, and no, we're good. And so, but that's something that to think about too, the flexibility and the love. And then the summertime or in the wintertime we travel and we go a lot back to the Carolinas, and they said, when are you going to move back here full time? Until I can't climb up those steps in the summertime, I'm not giving up Ponderosa because I love them so much. So
That's neat. Trish, when do you typically begin recruiting for the next season?
Today.
Always recruiting or always accepting?
Always recruiting.
Okay.
So we have applications already starting to trickle in for the 2026 season. But keep in mind that if you do want to be one of those really planning out in advance hosts that we love, our park staff. So I review the applications and I send them where they're appropriate. I have a lot of time to do that, however. Our park staff is right in the middle of that park craziness. Sometimes it feels like a Walking Dead episode out there. And so they're really consumed at the moment. So while your applications may get forwarded onto the parks right now, may be hit and miss as to whether they can get to reviewing those until the end of the season. So I would just, if you are one of those very proactive hosts that want to get your application in early, that's fantastic. But being lenient with us and expect a bit of a delay when it comes to the park actually contacting you and looking to fill the season positions for the next year.
What's involved in the interview and hiring process?
So the step one is the application, and you can find the digital, really simple to fill out, just a Q&A on the website. That kind of gives us a taste of what you're looking for and who you are. Then the park crew reviews the applications after I send them on to them, and they select the ones they think are going to make a great fit. They reach out to our volunteers, usually by phone, and you get to do a short over-the-phone interview in that conversation with them. If they think you're going to be a great fit, they will send you your onboarding packet, which consists of 3 different onboarding forms. One is our agreement with quite a few terms and conditions. And that's one of the places we're trying to wrangle that family piece in, as in those terms and conditions where you're agreeing that, you are going to be supervising your children and things like that. So those are all included in the agreement. The second form is your emergency contact form. God forbid something happened to you while you are camp hosting for us. We have that information quick and on hand. And then the third is our policies as far as like our workplace expectation policies and things like that. So those are your 3 onboarding forms. As soon as I receive those, I get to put them into our database and we issue a background check. So anybody that is living on site needs to complete a background check. Anybody that has extended interaction with our patrons that are coming in gets a background check. Anybody with interaction with vulnerable populations gets one. And so pretty much on the flip side, the only allowance that we have in place is if you volunteer for an event for a single day, then we won't run a background check. But everybody else does. And so that's the final step in the onboarding process. As soon as that's complete, the park will go ahead and work out your arrival details and stuff like that and give you some on-site training when you come in.
What can somebody do to really stand out if they want to come work for Idaho State Parks?
So I would recommend following up on your application. You are more than welcome to contact the park. There is the visitor services phone number at each park is on our website. If you submit your application and you're very excited and motivated for a specific park or job, you can go ahead and either follow up with me, which is fine, but I work in Boise. And so I'm not boots on the ground looking at your applications. And so following up with those individuals in the park, each park has a on-site volunteer coordinator. That's a great person to reach out to and just introduce yourself after your applications had a little time to marinate.
Okay. Julie and Ken, what do you wish you knew before you came to work for the Idaho State Parks, or what do you think work campers need to know before they come to work for the park?
Go ahead, Julie.
Oh gosh, for me, I did exactly what Trish did. Like I said, I've been coming up here at Ponderosa for 60 years. And so when the summer before I knew I was going to retire, I met with the manager and then I met with the volunteer coordinator. I think that's really important. And I'm a very observant person, so I could see the campground hosts that were my hosts. I could see what should have been done what could have been done. But there was a story that when we first started, and I couldn't believe that something like this happened, but this is something it would be really good to let everyone know. When you're a campground host, you come up here and yeah, you are in this beautiful setting. Yes, you get to ride on dirt trails. You get to take your UTV out. You get to go fishing. You get to take your boat out. You do have a responsibility. You have some work that has to be done. Your 20 hours, at least 20 hours a week. And there was a host that came up thinking, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and drive through with the meal and don't worry about it. They could never find the host because they would be out on the lake. After a couple months of that, they got fired. Yeah, you can get fired from a volunteer position because if you do not do, because they are blessing us by giving us a space. And I attribute to down in the valley, we're full-time RVers now. We sold our house in the valley. And so like we were going to get a space down in the valley for November and December. In Nampa, Idaho, it's not even in Boise, at $1,200 a month. To me, they're paying us $1,200 a month to stay up there. And it's such a blessing to us. And I think so when you become a campground house, yes, you do have to do things that is on your job description that you have signed on to do, whether it be in the visitor center, whether it be in the kiosk, whether it be doing what I do with the campgrounds, whether the interpretive center. They always ask on Saturdays to help with the kids. I grab my granddaughter. We have a great time. But if you just want to think you can get in the mule that they provide for you and drive around one loop and then take your boat out and be gone all day long, no. You want to be here for the campers when you're here. And so it's a good balance. And so couldn't imagine being fired from a volunteer position, but it does happen.
Yeah.
People are relying on you to do certain things at specific times and to get it done. And if you're not getting it done, then release the position to somebody who wants to come in and make the contribution. What about you, Ken? Do you have any?
Well, I would add, have some realistic personal expectations. It's your first time we keep using this camp host as a title. I'm a volunteer. So not only I have done camp host stuff, but most of the time I'm in a visitor center, interpretive center. My park has a hot springs campground, has a beautiful interpretive center museum that resembles a stamp mill because of our mining heritage. We have a ghost town, old mining town called Bay Horse. And I've worked in structure stability there and arresting decay, interpretive services. I've developed some programs in our interpretive center. If you're listening to this podcast, you've got to have some ideas on what you want to do and some expectations, and then communicate those expectations with the park that Trish either aligns you with or one that you've selected to say, hey, this is where I want to go and this is where I want to put some time in, because that's what you're doing. You're giving time, you're giving your energy, and you're going to look at this organization and you're going to look at this park and you're going to go, this is something valuable and I'm going to go ahead and give my time. And that's really key. If you don't have this volunteer spirit, I'm going to work hard so others can have a better enjoyment of their recreation and their recreating in Idaho. You really have to look at yourself and go, is this something that I really want to do? And then that I'm going to be a service and a benefit to others.
Very good.
I would like to build just for a quick second on what each Julie and Ken had to say. I'd start out with Ken since it's freshest in my brain. But he says be realistic about the expectations. I would encourage volunteers to be realistic about their personal limitations as well. So while we definitely encourage our volunteers to come in and perform maintenance work and things like that, I would highly recommend that our volunteers consider their limitations when they come in. We want to make sure everybody is safe and having a good quality experience and nobody gets injured, if at all we can avoid it. So, keep in mind a good majority of our volunteers coming in are those retired crowd. And maybe you're not exactly swinging the mallet or the axe or the sledgehammer that you used to. So try not to come in to your volunteer position and grab a heavy piece of equipment or tool right out the gate to make sure that you're safe. Keep in mind your personal limitations when you come in as a host, just to prevent injuries. And then Julie talked a bit about how volunteers sometimes don't end up being a good match for our program. And that does happen on occasion. Every year we let a few go. I'd have to say that the numbers reflected how many come in and how many do end up getting let go through the season. Is our track record is probably less than 2%. But I would encourage our potential volunteers to consider their mindset. We have two different mindsets that we see a lot. We see people that are excited to volunteer and appreciate the perks that they get. And then we have the other side of the coin that are people that are looking to live somewhere and are willing to volunteer to get that. And so that is our challenge as we're interviewing people and trying to place volunteers and have a good experience throughout the season, is balancing that fence to figure out, all right, so we really are looking for those people that have that heart of service and want to volunteer and appreciate what they're getting for it. Just a plug in on what Julie had to say there.
Very good point. Where can people get more information about volunteering with the Idaho State Parks?
Yeah, so our website is going through a couple updates at the moment. So I was surprised the other day I hopped on and it was an old version of the website, which was live, but there will always be something live in there. It's becoming more ADA accessible and things like that. So you'll see some updates come through the website, but that's where I would encourage everybody to check out primarily. We also have a pretty active social media page. Our State Volunteers Facebook page is a good resource as well. We post availabilities and things like that. That reminds me, I should probably hop in there and do some recruitment for those 3 parks I mentioned that have an availability. But yeah, those are good resources to go to. And right on our website is where you find that application.
What is your web address?
It's parksandrecreation.idaho.gov.
Very good. Thank you guys for joining me today. I really appreciate it. You provided a wealth of information about what it's like to work in Idaho, and I hope it's successful in enticing people to the North Country there to enjoy the beauty and the many recreational opportunities that you folks offer.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Greg, for this opportunity to hop on and do this podcast.
As you just heard, Idaho State Parks and Recreation truly depends on the dedication and energy of its volunteers. Hosting between 380 and 400 volunteers each season, the agency offers positions across a diverse range of parks and landscapes. Those include quiet lakeside retreats to adventurous trail systems deep in the forest. The standard expectation is just 20 hours of service per week in exchange for a full hookup RV site. But many volunteers choose to do more simply because they love the work and the community that comes with it. For the agency, volunteers are far more than just helping hands. They bring decades of life experience and a heart for giving back. According to Trish, volunteers are not only essential to daily operations, they also serve as mentors for younger staff, bring fresh ideas to the parks, and often help improve guest experiences in creative ways. Whether it's helping a family learn how to build a campfire, maintaining trails for safe hiking and riding, or greeting guests with a warm smile and local tips, Workampers play a vital role in fulfilling the park system's mission. If you're interested in volunteering with Idaho State Parks and Recreation, you can start by visiting the department's website at www.parksandrecreation.idaho.gov. From there, head to the volunteering section where you'll find a simple application and contact information for Trish Hendrickson. You're also encouraged to follow up directly with the park where you'd like to serve. While applications are accepted year-round, applying earlier is always better, especially for high-demand locations. To get a sense of current needs and to see photos of active volunteers, check out the Idaho State Parks and Recreation Volunteers Facebook page as well. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to spend your summer, enjoy the outdoors, and make a lasting contribution, consider joining Idaho's community of dedicated state park volunteers. Might just become your new favorite adventure. Would you like to be featured in an upcoming episode of The Workamper Show? I encourage you to schedule an interview with me at workcampershow.com. We'd love to hear about your work camping experiences, how you got started RVing, and what you love and dislike about the RVing lifestyle. Help others explore all the ways to live this great lifestyle by sharing your story. If you're an employer of work campers, we invite you to be on the podcast too. Share all the details of your work camping jobs in a future episode. It only costs a little bit of your time. Schedule an interview with me today by going to workcampershow.com. You'll find the schedule buttons at the bottom of the homepage. That's all for this week's show. Next time I'll be interviewing an employer in North Dakota who has a fabulous opportunity for solos, couples, and families. She even has some housing available for people without RVs. I'll have more details on the next episode of The Work Camper Show. Thanks for listening, and if you like these interviews, please consider leaving a review wherever you download the episodes.